Hey, Jeff Callahan here, founder of Become More Compelling, and welcome to another episode of Compelling Combos. Are you a people pleaser? Hey, can you drive me to the airport on Friday? Hey, would you mind jumping into this meeting? Hey, would you mind pet sitting my dog? Look, those are all things you probably don't want to say yes to. So if you've ever thought about yourself as a people pleaser, then this video is going to help you out. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips to help you stop people pleasing and break that cycle of trying to please others and become more assertive. Let's dive in. People pleasing comes from a good place, but it has a cost. If you have a tendency to hop in and help a coworker with a project or take on a client that you know isn't a great fit for your business, it comes from a good place. Like, you want to be helpful. Being helpful is great, but not when being helpful comes at your own expense. If you can't get your work done, or you have to rearrange your entire day because your friend wants you to pick him up from the airport, then that's not good. I've always been of the opinion that you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And to complicate matters a little bit more, layered on top of that is, in every job description, you're probably gonna hear the words, be a team player. And if you're a business owner, there's the whole concept of rise and grind, hustle, hustle, hustle. And it makes us feel like we have to say yes to everything. And that's not necessarily true. People pleasing has a delayed cost. In the moment, it feels great to say yes, and you get that smile, and that person's like, great, thanks for helping out. And you feel really good about that, right? Well, later on, when you're trying to juggle 5 different projects, or you're banging your head against your steering wheel while you're stopped in airport traffic, you might be thinking, what the heck am I doing with my life? It's time to get real about the cost. Take a couple of seconds and just think, when was the last time you did something or you said yes to something that was just people pleasing? So it was just meant to be agreeable. It was just meant to get that quick yes, and it came at your own expense. And now think about the cost. What was the cost of saying yes? In the comments below, tell me what the cost was to you. Was it an entire Saturday spent moving a piano that you could barely move, and this person didn't even offer you pizza? In the comments below, let me know. Let me give you an example of how the costs are often unseen. So I had a coaching client. She was an executive at a startup. And for every on-site meeting that she attended, we calculated it out, and we figured that for that 1-hour meeting, that's just a 1-hour time block on her calendar, it was really 6 hours when you factor in travel, kind of prepping and getting up for the meeting, and then cooling down from the meeting. And when you layered on opportunity cost on top of that, the real cost of that 1-hour meeting, 6 hours. That's almost an entire day. And for those smaller moments, like maybe you agree with something, with someone's opinion that you really don't agree with, and you're trying to avoid any sort of conflict, well, consider that you are kind of watering down your personality and agreeing to things just to avoid conflict. And so that's fundamentally, you're altering who you really are just for the sake of being agreeable. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, walking on eggshells for the rest of my life doesn't sound like a very fun existence. All right, so we know the problem. What are some solutions? Set your default from yes to let me see. This is a great way to protect your time if you're the kind of person that just defaults to saying yes. So someone asks you if you can hop on a Zoom meeting with them. And it's like, okay, this isn't really a fit for me, or this isn't even my department. Like, it doesn't make any sense for me to be here. Instead of just saying yes and getting that quick rush of like, great, it'll be great to have you in the meeting. Instead, say, hey, let me check my calendar and get back to you. Then you can check your calendar and respond with a no. And we're gonna cover how to do that on the next tip. As I learned to be more protective of my time, this is exactly the same strategy that I used. Now, it's important to mention that it is not a complete solution, so you are in effect punting to say no at a later time. But this is a really good first step to break the cycle of automatically saying yes just to get that momentary hit of making someone else happy in the moment at your own expense. And that's where this next tip comes in. Have a decline script ready and waiting. So here's a peek behind the scenes at Become More Compelling. As I've grown over the years, I now have a lot of requests for private coaching, my private coaching services. And that's great. I am completely lucky to have that. But the reality is, most people are not a fit, and I actually decline more people than I accept. If you've ever run a business, then you know, like, you can't serve everyone. You have to serve the best people for your particular business. For example, maybe they haven't done hardly anything to improve, and so I'll point them in the direction of my YouTube channel or blogs to help get them going, and maybe coaching will happen later. Here's the thing, I used to agonize about sending a decline email. I absolutely hated it. I would spend like an entire day like trying to word it just right, and it was an excruciating experience. And you know, it makes sense. I don't know anyone that relishes giving bad news, but nowadays I feel 0% of that anguish that I felt years ago. So what changed? I created a decline script. Nowadays I use an app called Text Expander with a decline script, and it takes all that anguish and I literally hit 3 buttons on my keyboard and the decline script is populated. Hey, taking a little field trip. I'm going to show you how that Text Expander decline script works. Let's check it out. So as you can see here, I hit these 3 buttons. It's just a keyboard shortcut in Text Expander, and then it populates. I've got the person's name on my clipboard. For this example, I'm using my own name. And I can select a drop-down menu with reasons. So, you know, it could be that the person's not 21. It could be that they don't have the resources available to invest in coaching, which is all fine. Or it could be that they just haven't tried a lot in the past. So let's use that one as an example. Do the little drop-down, and then boom, here's my decline script, and I can send it off. Now, it's important to realize that, okay, that's great. Like, have that decline script. You don't have to be as fancy as I am. You could literally have it in a notes file on your phone and then just copy and paste it and change the person's name out. That's totally fine. If you have a kind of a similar type of request, like a meeting request, or a friend that you don't know very well wants you to do them favors constantly, whatever it happens to be. Like, you can do that decline script ahead of time. I think in our world now, we have a lot more DM and email and Slack and all that kind of stuff. Like, that digital part is a lot more prevalent than phone calls. But if you're in a situation where you are going to have to decline people over the phone, then look at your decline script. Practice it over and over and over until you feel really comfortable and it feels like second nature for you to give that decline script verbally over the phone. A decline script, like, you can absolutely you should be nice and you should be polite and you should give people other options that don't involve you. You'll notice in my decline script, I give someone other options to get knowledge and help from me. Next tip, be ready for the pushback. So admittedly, this doesn't happen all the time, and most times people are just fine with the decline that you give them. Say that you do get a little bit of pushback. So your friend from the airport says, okay, well, I guess I'll just walk home then. And they're trying to guilt you into giving them a ride home from the airport. Like, what should you say if that person is like, hey, I would love to have you in this meeting. I understand you can't be in the full meeting, but if you could just stick your head in for the first 5 minutes. You know, they're trying to negotiate with you, and this isn't a negotiation. So what should you do? It's really important to be consistent with our earlier statement. For the airport friend, hey, I really value our friendship, but I unfortunately am not going to be able to rearrange my entire day and pick you up at the airport at 2 p.m. For the person who wants you to stick your head into a meeting for 5 minutes, hey, I would love to stick my head in the meeting for 5 minutes, but I'm just not going to be able to do that. Silence is super important. So if you look up any of like the awesome negotiators out there, you know, Chris Voss comes to mind. They're all going to say a similar thing when it comes to like that offer that you've laid down. And that's what this is. It is an offer. You know, you're still giving them your original offer and you're saying, hey, I can't do that thing. Silence is super important. So if you're physically talking to them, it could be a Zoom meeting, it could be a phone call, it could be in person. Silence. Just shut up. and do not leave the door open for a further negotiation. So let that silence do the work for you. And it's going to be a little uncomfortable, and it should be uncomfortable as you learn. But over time, silence will be second nature to you. And silence will do all the work for you, most of the work for you. And that person, let them process that decline that you just gave them. And if it's over DM or email, it can be tempting to leave a little crack in the door and say, hey, yeah, I'm not going to be able to pick you up from the airport. Have you thought about trying Uber? I won't be able to stick my head in that meeting for 5 minutes this time. So be very careful about leaving the door open. My advice to you would be do not leave the door open. Just let that digital silence do the work for you, so that they are not coming back with another offer. And if you need a little extra assurance, just picture me saying like, look, it's okay for you to take care of you, and it's okay for you not to please everyone. I give you permission to say no. Over time, you'll notice that it becomes easier and easier to say no because you're building that skill. And believe me, people will adapt to your new boundaries. If you decline that airport friend, guess what? They're probably not gonna call you first. Next time they need a ride home from the airport, maybe they'll try Uber like normal people. And you'll have less burnout, resentment, and overwhelm, which means you'll be able to bring your best self to social interactions. If you're not constantly saying yes to people and overextending yourself, say that you have a Zoom dinner that you're gonna go on, like you can be present in that Zoom dinner and feel great about what you're bringing to the table because your mind's not in 7 different places thinking about all the extra work that you took on. So that's our tip for today. If you have a question that you'd like me to cover on a future episode of Compelling Convos, a few different ways you can get that to me. 1, you can hit me up on Instagram or Twitter at the Jeff Callahan. 2, you can send me an email at jeff@becomemorecompelling.com. Or you can drop a comment below with your topic suggestion and I'll cover it on a future video. That's it for today. Talk soon. Hey, a couple of quick things before you leave. 1, I've got a subscribe button over here. If you like this video and you don't want to miss out on a future video, hit that subscribe button. 2, if you like this video, hit the like button. That helps other awesome people like you find it. And 3, leave a comment if you have any feedback for me or if you have a topic or suggestion that you want me to cover in a future video. Thanks.